What's up, everybody? Thanks again for stopping by for another edition of March 4th with Mike Bauman. I, of course, am your host, Mike Bauman. Whoever you are, wherever you are listening from, thank you so much for checking out the podcast. If you're a returning listener, I greatly appreciate your continued love and support. And if you're a brand new listener of the show, man, thank you so much for hopping aboard that pirate ship. You can follow me on Instagram at March 4th Pod. I am on YouTube at March 4th Pod. I'm also over there on the TikTok at March 4th Podcast. Hey, you know what? If you made it here, and that means you found me somehow, and I truly appreciate each and every one of you taking the time to check out another edition of the March 4th with Mike Bauman podcast. How is everybody doing, man? I hope that life finds you well. As this podcast is hitting your eardrums, I hope that life is splendid. For realsy, though, we're getting into the summer weather here in the States, and I really enjoy this time of year, even though it gets pretty sticky icky out here in Nashville. It gets pretty humid, man. And I'm not really a hot weather guy as a native Midwesterner. Hot weather is not really my forte. I need a lot of SPF 30 at least if I'm going to be in the shun, because my relatives, when I trace things back, are Gollum. Okay, a long time ago. I'm pretty sure I'm related to that guy. My precious. I'm very pale, very freckly. Okay, not on the cover of GQ, not the kind of guys you see on the cover of those mags. But in any event, I do. Your boy does like to hike and get outside, get out of my head, and the pinballs that bounce around up in between the ears, as it were. And I've learned, I've gotten better over the years at quieting my mind, and I've gotten better at dealing with my anxiety and intrusive thoughts, as it were. But nature is a big release for me in terms of getting outside of myself. And recently, I've discovered a really cool place that I'm trying to keep sacred, because there's not a whole lot of people that are there when I go, and it's amazing. And it's just some people that freaks them out, being out in the middle of nowhere. I love it. It's like my favorite place to be. As much as I love live music and concerts, and I like checking out new places, whether it's like a new ice cream shop or a new restaurant, um, I'm a big fan of getting out of the hustle and bustle, especially working in the city too, like I do. And Nashville is a tourist destination. So, compared to places, even other big cities that, they're not like, people aren't coming in to go downtown. You might have businesses doing conventions and whatnot, but like Nashville, it's all of that. You got businesses doing conventions every week, and conferences, and, bachelorette parties. Woo! The woohoo girls, as we call them locally, and it's great for tourism and whatnot. But anyway, like that's, I go into the belly of the beast, as I say, 4 days a week. So usually on my weekends, this is what I'm doing. I'm putting together some podcasts. I'm relaxing, and getting everything ready to get these shows out to you guys and decompress a little bit. So without further ado, I'm just gonna get right into it. I hope everybody's doing great. I hope life finds you well, and if not, just hang in there, man. Keep your head up. It gets better. I promise you. For what it's worth, I'm no doctor, okay? So this isn't prescriptive advice. This is just for entertainment purposes, but also for just for what it's worth, coming from this guy is spend time in nature, and don't quit on yourself. Don't quit on your dreams. And this week's guest is a great example of that. These guys are brothers, as it were. They are from my home state of Ohio, and I always get geeked out and get fired up whenever I'm able to showcase artists from my neck of the woods. These guys are Firmament. They're the brother duo of Eric and Brandon Carbenia out of Ohio. They formed, I believe, a little over a decade ago now, back in 2014. So these guys have been at it for a while. They are musical wizards, these dudes, from music production to instrumentation. The guitar playing is phenomenal. The vocals and lyrics are phenomenal. These guys are like a fusion of modern metalcore, progressive rock and progressive metal, post-hardcore, alternative rock. And there's themes in their music of philosophy, mysticism, personal loss. Their debut LP came out back in 2018. It was called Spirit of Place. Um, and that really kind of put them on the map. They got critical acclaim for that. They drew comparisons to bands like Tool, The Contortionist, Porcupine Tree. And again, if you love bands like those bands, as well as bands like Periphery, Tesseract, even Animals as Leaders, if you're into like, that kind of virtuoso type playing, and prog, you'll love these guys. But like a lot of bands and just like people in life, they took a little break ski. They had a hiatus. They moved to Austin, but they're back in Ohio now, and their new album, their sophomore LP, A New World, If You Can Take It, just came out back on May 2nd, and it was cool, man. I had a great conversation with these guys. Very introspective cats, very intelligent dudes. And again, I really enjoyed Spirit of Place when I listened to it. And at the time, A New World, If You Can Take It, was not out yet, but I had heard a couple of songs that I really dug off of it. And I've since obviously listened to the record and have really, really enjoyed it. And these guys were actually kind enough after the interview to mail me a copy of the CD. Excuse me. Excuse me, a little coffee burp. I'm leaving it in. But these guys were kind enough to send me. I'm a big goofball, folks. To send me a CD, and the artwork is really sick. We talk about that in this conversation, and it was just cool. It was cool to learn about these guys, how they grew up, their musical journey, the interests they have. Like I said, just when it comes to philosophy, different ways of life, how that played into the material. And group of people that they visited, which you'll hear about, that's vastly different from how they grew up. The artwork, like all of it, is very thought out and very meticulous and very creative. And I'm a big music nerd when it comes to this stuff. I mean, obviously, I can barely play a lick, man. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not a cat that knows like musical theory and stuff. But in terms of just awesome lyrics and riffage, I love it. I love it all. And I'm a big fan of bands like Periphery and Dream Theater and stuff too. So I like the proggy stuff, and these guys can get down. So without further ado, I'm going to shut my big yapper and give you guys my conversation with Eric and Brandon Carbenia of Firmament. Here it is. Well, fellas, thanks again so much for joining me, man. Genuinely excited for you guys for your new record coming out. I know it's been a few years, and putting this together, and you guys have created an awesome body of work for myself and fellow metalheads out there. So thank you so much for your time, y'all. I really appreciate it.
Hey, yeah, thanks for having us on.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So before we officially get into all the deets, man, why don't you tell everybody your names, and what you play in the band, and that way when you guys are talking, they know who's speaking.
Yeah, so I'm Eric Carbenia. I'm the singer for the band.
Yeah, Brandon Carbenia, guitarist, basically. We both write the songs, so it's like...
Yeah, he does a lot of the production. He does all of the production and everything too, and a lot of the mixing. We get mastering done by a couple different people, but yeah.
So for you guys, man, when did this musical journey start? Obviously, like, the virtuosity in your playing is awesome. Again, I'm a big fan of prog stuff too, and Dream Theater was like the first band. Shout out to my buddy Tony from high school, who got me into them, and I remember he put me onto them. He's like, dude, they're like a combination of Rush and Metallica. You're gonna love it. Um, and yeah, to this day, train of thought. Still love that. But for y'all, man, how did you guys get into this? What are like the earliest musical memories for y'all?
Yeah, our whole life we've been into it. Our parents were really into not playing music, but listening to classic rock. So that was the stuff we started listening to, and it's still some of the best music, I think, like Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then at some point we started branching out from there and listening to Tool and that kind of stuff, and actually playing music. And I think we both started playing guitar around the same time, and then
I think a lot of that stuff happened because we had our cousin and living with us, and he's like maybe 10 years older than us, and they had a box of VHS tapes, and they had like Pink Floyd Pulse and a bunch of Dream Theater stuff, bunch of Toll records and stuff like that. And they had a guitar because someone had given him a guitar, and they were like, I'm not really going to use this, so they just had that thing sitting around. And I feel like that was a really big inspiration for us, is just like having all that music in the house. We were like,
Yeah. And then we
Yeah,
just got then just like playing, we were just playing together and kind of like a brotherly competition about, getting better than each other and stuff. And that's probably what made us, learn the instrument seriously, because without that, I probably would have got bored with it. Like I got bored with a lot of other hobbies.
do you guys remember the first songs that you learned when you were playing guitar? Like the first one that you felt comfortable like playing all the way through, and it could like in terms of like tempo and like your strum in hand where you felt good and you felt like it wasn't like too sloppy.
Oh, sure
yeah. I
is.
mean, for me, I feel like I don't really I still don't know any songs like by other people. I never really learned that way, but I had like a it was like Guitar for Idiots book or whatever, and uh, it had a couple like Brown Eyed Girl, some like Van Halen tunes, some Zeppelin tunes, basic it had like Stairway. I think I learned most of Stairway to Heaven, but yeah, I never really learned full songs through like that. I was always more interested in like improvisation and stuff like that, so I kind of gravitated towards that, which is probably not. That's probably not how most people uh, would answer that.
Yeah. And that's probably why we can't remember our own songs half the time. We have to practice a lot to remember our own songs, even because I'm kind of the same. I mean, I remember I learned Crazy Train all the way through. That was the first one I could play the solo, and I played
Yeah.
that a lot.
So were you trying to just play the stuff that you were hearing in your head, like trying to figure out like on the fretboard, like oh like I have this because I know like back when I was first getting into it when I was like 19, um I started to feel good if like even if and again like we're talking like a real novice level, but if I could kind of figure out on the fretboard, kind of like where to go and play a little bit of whatever I was hearing in my head. So when you're Eric and Brandon, when you're talking about like learning playing, is that kind of like that's more where you guys went was like, hey, we enjoy this stuff, but I want to figure out how to play what's going on in between the ears versus learning other people's tunes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd say definitely. I remember being really inspired by people like Steven Wilson, and just how he thinks about music is, he has like he gathers a group of people that are really good, and then he kind of composes for them. Um, but he has a very like I just remember reading things about him about like wanting to compose music like that. Like he basically does all the stuff himself, you know, and just kind of gets people to play the guitar parts that he can't play or the drum parts that he can't play. Um, so I think from an early age, I kind of thought about music like that, just like from a composer standpoint or something like that.
Yeah. And
That's cool, man.
learning. Oh,
Oh, sorry, go
yeah.
ahead.
And no, yeah. And then, yeah, learning like theory was something that we were both always into. That I think a lot of people they're not that into theory, but we both considered going to college for music, and ahead of that, we knew a lot. I mean, like I don't know half the theory that he does, but I tested out of like a lot of stuff in college and realized that it wasn't really going to be worth it to do that, so I went for something else. Um, but that having that in your head where you're learning the building blocks and you're trying to put it together, it's like getting a Lego set and building your own thing instead of putting together what the diagram is or whatever.
Yeah, because like I mean, I like just in terms of like scales and stuff, you know what I mean? There's that, but like music theory goes like way even beyond that. And it's cool watching like different guitar players, like obviously, interviewing bands and stuff over the years, and even back when I used to subscribe to like Guitar World, I was always curious to learn how like they played and like the things that they were into, you know, because everybody's different. And even a guy like Eddie Van Halen, I didn't realize till years later a lot of the stuff that he was doing on the fretboard was kind of coming from out of necessity, because he said back in the day when they were starting out, he couldn't afford pedals and different sounds and be able to get different production. So it was really kind of like a Mad Hatter, you know, figuring it out. But no, like there's been a few people over the years on the show that have done like Musicians Institute and stuff, you know, like you know,
Hmm.
going to school and really learning all that. But I know it gets deep, you know, especially with guitar, but in terms of the levels that that adds to your playing, because I feel like as a guitar player, correct me if I'm wrong, like I mean, if you ever feel like you figured it out, you're probably not challenging yourself enough creatively because there's always new things you can learn. But at what point, kind of in that process, did you guys like, you know, feel like you picked up enough to where you can write a song that you enjoy, but also is like I don't know if complex is the word, but like mixing in theory and writing music that's like intricate to you, but also what you love. Does that make sense? Like in terms of grasping theory to a level where you became really confident in the songwriting.
Yeah, I think at first we played with a really good drummer and a really good bassist for a long time. Um, and so our early years were kind of bouncing things off each other, and that made it a lot easier to write if one person didn't know all the theory for something, or didn't know how to like come up with a rhythm or what time signature a riff was in or something. The drummer would pick up that kind of time signature stuff, or the bass player would fill in things that we weren't able to think of. So I think that was really helpful in that regard. I don't know
Yeah,
if you have any.
and the drummer was really into jazz fusion and that sort of thing. So I think you can hear that if you go back and listen to our first album. It's got a lot of that influence on it. I think that when we put that out, we weren't quite ready to like actually pull all the stuff off that we were trying to do. So it is what it is. But so that like becoming really confident with pulling it off, I feel like that's something I don't even know if I still don't really feel like that. I feel like that's something you're continually trying to do.
I thought it
Yeah.
turned out great, man. When I was listening to Spirit of Place earlier, like and the flow of the record was really awesome too, because it starts with what autotroph, um, and then novelties like that last one, and that's like a really cool epic track, man. So I thought it was cool, even how you guys like stacked it front to back. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, man. And like I said, just as like a metalhead, I mean, I love all the stuff from like the Periphery and Dream Theater stuff that's more proggy to just like you know, like metalcore and breakdowns and like Kill Switch Engage. I love one of my favorites. Um and then bands like, you know, kind of in more, I guess you would say alt metal or just, you know, like Deftones, you know what I mean? I got into them when I was like in my early 20s. So I enjoy all of it, man. But especially now, I mean that record's what, 7 years old? It came out in 18. I thought you guys did a hell of a job, man.
Oh, thank
And
you.
I'm sure putting that together too, when you've got like 50 minutes worth of music, what is that like when you're, you know, stacking songs and coming up with a flow of a record? Did that take a minute to kind of figure out where you guys wanted to put the songs in order as far as like a front to back listen?
Yeah, I think that those songs were a set list that we were building and playing live over a pretty long period of time. So it kind of just developed the way that it was, and the sequence is kind of telling a sort of story, not a story, but it's supposed to flow together and have like these themes tie into the ones later, and they all build towards novelty, which is supposed to include everything, a little bit of everything. But it was a pretty natural, we sat and we talked about it a lot, but it happened gradually.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, man. Raymond Moody too was another one where the music video I thought was really sick too. That was awesome. That was a really cool it was almost like a short film watching that. How much fun was it to make that and come up with like the visual side of that song? Because I really enjoyed that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was one of my favorite things that we did around that album. Because it we planned out, we did everything. We hired some friends of ours that are doing film in Pittsburgh, and they came back and we went to school with them, and they're just doing that full time, so they were able to really help us pull it together. But as far as getting that location, it's in Leetonia, which is pretty close to Pennsylvania border of Ohio, and it's just like this abandoned oven. All these abandoned ovens are lined up there, and so we just used it. We called the city council or park division or whatever it is, because it's a really small town. We got a hold of them really easy, and they just okayed us to film there, and actually came out, and we made food for them and stuff.
That's
Um,
awesome, man. Yeah, I was wondering because the credits at the end of the video, and I was trying to look up. I'm like, do I recognize that park? Because as you're watching it, it's like it's kind of like a like otherworldly. Because I like seeing something like that in terms of like all of those next to each other. Like part of me wondered how much of it was like, okay, how much of this is real? How much of it is not? And then I was like, it looks pretty real.
yeah, it
Um,
pretty much just is what you see,
Yeah.
except the alien membrane or whatever we added to it. But it really just looks like that, and that's what we really like finding places like that. It's really inspiring because that where you get a touch of this surreal thing that, and you can go there and walk through it, and it just changes the way that you see things for a little bit.
Yeah, that came out great, man. You guys did an awesome job. I think it's a really cool time for like heavy music right now because there's so many awesome bands like yourselves who are really putting a lot of effort into the visual element and the visual piece of it too, where it's like a full piece of art. It's not just the music, it's like the vinyl, it's the artwork, it's the music video piece. Because there was a period I would say probably like 10 years ago where I felt like for a little while, at least with like the first singles that bands would put out with like a new record or a new EP, it would be like a lyric video. And I love those too. Those are cool. Um, but that was like I feel like a wave for a while. And it seems like now there's a lot of artists, whether they're independent or whether they're on like major labels that are really kind of getting back to like music videos. And I love it because that was something that I geeked out on growing up. Like I probably sound like a broken record to people who listen to the show frequently, but I mean, growing up watching like TRL with my sister pretty much like after school every day, and porn whenever they would like knock off the boy bands out of the top 10, I was like, yes, but to this day, like, Freak on a Leash is one of my favorite music videos.
Yeah.
And you remember stuff like that when you see it when you're young, you're like, whoa, what is this? So yeah, kudos, man. I thought that beyond it being an awesome song, I thought that the music video turned out great too. I really loved Habitual too off of that one. Spirit of Place. Really love that song. I mean, front to back, it's a great listen. And then you guys did a nod to on Benedictional. It's like an homage to David Lynch, R.I.P. Right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
R.I.P. And that was actually he's a big influence on us. Just the kind of aesthetic, that surrealist aesthetic that we want to set with things, and including that music video. We were watching a lot of Twin Peaks when we were making that. So
Yeah, and reading up about getting ready for this one, and thanks again, fellas, for taking the time to do this for the sophomore album. It's going to be called A New World If You Can Take It, right? Is May 2nd it's coming out. So when this hits people's ears, it'll be out. So everybody please finish the conversation and then go listen to it. Um, but yeah, I really enjoyed Benedictional, and that features Alex Hunter of Present, right? Is on
Yeah.
that. And I read that that song is like the most poppier kind of the full length release.
yeah, we were trying to just write like a Taylor Swift song. So what we were trying to do is just write this basic song that, which is, it's fun. It's actually a challenge for us because that's not what we write usually, but we like the way it came out. It's
Yeah.
cool.
And how did you guys tab Alex for that one, man?
I was listening to that band for, I mean, not for a long time, but I think they just had they had an album coming out, so they were releasing singles around it, and I was getting into them, and I was like, oh, we wanted a female singer specifically for the part, just to go with the back and forth. It's kind of like a relationship song, so we wanted to bring that kind of voice in, and hers was just perfect, and we asked her, and she said she'd do it. It was easy.
Yeah, because the song's about basically like the difficulty of wishing a lover well as you part ways, but then um kind of recognizing too that the relationship wasn't good for you.
Yeah, that sums it up.
And how much of this, when you guys are writing this, and thanks again, you guys, for taking the time to do this. When you guys are putting together songs, how much of it are you drawing from personal experience, whether it's that one or other songs, and how much of it um is kind of coming from like, whether it's like you said, inspiration like David Lynch, other musicians or films, is it kind of like half and half balance in terms of personal experience and just art that you're a fan of?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it's a mix, really. When we talk about things that, like with that, I've been in relationships like that, but it's not really, it's trying to universalize those experiences into something that is just relatable. And it's not me thinking about somebody in particular necessarily. Even though I think everyone's had something like that to some degree. And then
Oh
other
yeah,
things
yeah, sure.
we're just thinking like we just get whacked out and think about whatever, like we're trying to talk about the end of the world or whatever. That's a lot of the album too. So
Yeah, because you guys actually you went to Austin for a little bit, and that was for like music production and spiritual exploration before you came back to Ohio.
yeah,
See that?
that's what we ended up doing because we
Yeah.
got locked in for COVID. So we were gonna go because they have a good music scene, live music scene. Basically, as soon as we got there, everything closed down. So we were just stuck inside the whole time. But we started a side project or like a second band. We take it as seriously. Um, but that band is called Temple Garden, and we just do like sci-fi, psychedelic prog rock stuff. It's a lot different. It's not heavy really. But we made that album down there, and then yeah, just kind of learned how to produce.
Yeah. Yeah, we were locked in for COVID, so we had a lot of time to just focus on music production. So I subscribed to like Nail the Mix and all these online mixing uh, tutorial websites and stuff, and just went really hard at trying to learn how to produce you know modern sounding stuff. And then yeah, like the episode or the album Red Shift that we came out with for the other band, that was kind of like you know getting the hang of it and learning how to do it properly. So, but yeah, there's a lot to that stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah, with music now, right? I mean, there's stuff like I know I've seen stuff as like neural, is it neural SP, where people you
Neural
can do like
DSP.
you can do like plugins and basically have like on your computer exactly kind of how you want the guitar to sound, like without all of the pedals and all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's wild, man.
Super.
It is, and the bar's so high when you listen to other bands. Like everyone sounds great now, so you have to try to get on that same level.
Yeah, it's I think it's kind of like I don't know, it's interesting because I feel like music now compared to maybe like 25 years ago, if you were trying to do even like a demo, right? Like the barrier to entry, especially if you were at like a local level, like a Toledo or Akron or wherever, and you're trying to fund it yourself, like it can get expensive. Whereas now, with kind of like the online component of it and the technological component of it. I think you can correct me if I'm wrong, as guys who are doing it, like you could make really good sounding, really great sounding music versus having to go pay for studio time and stuff like it kind of was back in the day. But there's also a lot to learn that comes with that too. And then you still have like, there's the recording the songs, but then there's the mixing, and then there's the mastering and everything that comes with it. So it's like a multi-phase process. But yeah, that's kind of what's interesting about music now, right? It's like you don't necessarily have to, if you want to make music that sounds good, it's probably a little bit more affordable than it was maybe 20, 25 years ago. But there's also a lot that you got to learn too if you want to do it on your own or mostly on your own.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because we did it both ways too. Our first album, we did it with Eric Emery, who is the singer for Sky Harbor, and that's the band that Tesseract singer Dan Tompkins, he sang for them, and then Eric Emery is the guy that took over for him. But he mixed Periphery and stuff, all kinds of stuff like that, and he was really good, but he was really expensive, and we didn't have any money, so and now
Yeah.
doing everything ourselves, it's definitely cheaper, but it's very time consuming, and you'll get stuck in doing that, stuck in a room for hours and hours doing it. It's hard.
Is there a DAW that you guys like to use, or one that you want to shout out, or a few that you used in terms of like putting this record together?
Yeah, we use Studio One for this one, but the recent updates with that one are kind of sketching me out a little bit. But because Fender took them over, I don't know how much it'll really affect them, but I like the like whatever. Basic Studio One has like you can notate guitar tabs and stuff in there, so it's kind of like Guitar Pro if you've ever messed with that. It's kind of like that, but you have it inside the DAW, so you don't have to like take everything you did in this one program and shift it over to like a different program. And it's the only DAW that I found that has that. Cubase has it too, but Studio One's integration with it is just a little better. Like you can change the guitar tunings and whatever, do all that kind of stuff. So you can kind of tab things out, so you can write a little bit more complex stuff than maybe you would have, thought of on your own, and then kind of play it, build it up, and play it. Um, I don't know if you do any music production stuff.
I don't, but just doing this, like I know people who have either gone to school for it or produce for other people. Um, like not trying to like be name droppy or be like that guy. So I hope it doesn't come off as that way. And it's probably just like like the Midwest nature, like we preface and like we're like, oh, I still got a lot of open in me, but Kellen from Memphis Mayfire has been on the show. Great guy, super down to earth, and I believe he's done their last two records, and works with other people. So I've kind of seen like stuff that he's done as far as stuff that he talks about. And then my one of my best friends, Ryan Waiton, who's in a band called Tropic Bombs. He does all their own stuff and went to school for audio engineering. So yeah, I know there's different software out there. But me myself, if you guys saw my setup here, you'd probably figure it out in like five. I just got like a little mixing board. Most of my knobs are at midnight, so and then the gain is cranked up a little bit, so I sound okay. So no, that's a long answer to your question. No, I'm definitely not an audiophile. But I'm a little familiar just being a fan of guitar. Like that was the first instrument that I was really drawn to when I was a kid. Um, and just listening to different interviews and talking to different people over the years. And I think especially during COVID, because so many people like yourselves were locked in, um, I think there was a lot of experimentation that was going on, and more of that stuff I felt like was kind of coming out. I think that's when I first started to see like the neural stuff. And people advertising, hey, if you want my sound, you can go here and do A, B, C, and D,
Yeah,
through guys like Kellen and
definitely.
whatnot. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that stuff definitely ticked up during that time period, I think. People advertising that. I remember seeing the get good drums like Nolly and stuff, like they started advertising real hard, specifically like, hey, you're stuck in a house, get our drums, like.
Yeah.
So sonically for y'all, and thanks again so much for geeking out with me about music, fellas. This is awesome. For you guys, after already doing a record, I know this one has themes of philosophy, mysticism, personal loss, and kind of like what we've already talked about. Like you said, people go through heartbreak, people go through death. None of us get out alive, right? There's an impermanence to just existing in general. Uh, you know, Everything we do has a beginning and an end, right? But for you guys sonically, after I don't know if I would say like lessons learned, but going through making a full length record, and I know it was a number of years ago, and then being in Austin and having like the world basically turn upside down. Um, how does that impact or did that impact this record, like in terms of what you learned from making that first one, and then kind of what you were going for this album with Firmament?
I think musically it changed our approach because now it's just the two of us writing everything. And when we want to play live, we're just hiring musicians. So it's, just us writing, and we're doing a lot more of it on the computer. And that it really wasn't like that before. We jammed on stuff and figured it out slowly. So it gives you creative control in a way, but it's also, it does get kind of isolating sometimes doing it that way. And I think that came out of that experience a little bit, though, that approach to doing things.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, as far as like themes, I don't think there's really any specifically tied to the lockdown or anything. It's not like we're talking about that on the album, so it didn't get through that way. But
So more just in like the actual production sense and just kind of being like a duo doing it yourselves.
yeah, and then I think we were excited to get back because one thing that we always do, we go out to places, we try to meet people, talk to them, and get some stories to wrap into it. And when you can't do that for a while, what we made was like this sci-fi concept album that's just like totally whacked out. It's like you got to be trapped in a room to do that or whatever. But with Firmament, we try to go and actually talk to people and get real life stories, and especially if you can tie it to the kind of like the personality and ethic of the Rust Belt, and how you have all these, there's like ghosts of this old industrial place that used to be here that's gone now, and there's a lot of people that suffer from it. And that's, we've tried to talk to some of those kind of people and integrate that into what we're talking about so that it gets, because you have people come up to you, probably everyone that makes music, you have people come up to you and be like, oh, you should write a song about this, and it's something from their life. And, we try to do that in some way. I think it's cool to tell other people's stories too, not just your own personality.
For sure. And for you guys, I mean, going from Ohio to Austin, from what I've heard about Austin, I've never been. I actually applied to at least one gig down there before I ended up moving to Nashville. Because I had heard about it. I was like, well, I've heard about the barbecue, and I know they have an awesome music scene, and I can get down with both of those things. Um, so that was a place where if I didn't end up in Nashville, I was excited about the potential of landing down there. Um, what was that environment like for you guys, just coming from Ohio? I mean, and again, I'm not like acting like you've never been outside of Ohio before, but like you said, like the Midwest kind of mentality or way of life. Having grown up in it for 27 years before I moved to Nashville, it is different than down here. Like when I came down here, um, I mean Nashville's, I mean it boomed a lot even since COVID. It was growing when I came here. I digress, but it's kind of like a cultural melting pot. Like you get people from all over. Um, we actually call like people from Nashville unicorns because it's rare if you meet somebody who's from here. Because there's a lot of people who come here to chase, music dreams and or just, career wise, in terms of healthcare and tech and all that stuff. But but it is a different vibe. Like the southern kind of vibe is a different kind of way of life and different pace than like what I came from in Toledo. There's some similarities, but there's a lot of differences too. Like you mentioned just meeting people and their different life experiences, like how much of the culture of Austin, if at all, played a role in writing new songs.
Hmm.
Yeah, most of the songs on this record were written after like coming back. So like for the other, the other band that we started down there, it really has that kind of like Austin feel to it. I
Yeah,
think
the keep Austin weird, like psychedelic
yeah, something
stuff.
like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
It has like, more of that like that feeling, and then when we came back here, and it's just a little bit more
It's
dark,
it's gloomy
depressing,
and
gloomy here,
yeah,
a little bit.
yeah. So
So
you
we
write metal
got
music.
yeah, you write metal music, and when you go down there, you write psychedelic music, whatever, you know. So I think that had that like shift of going back to Ohio kind of that played a role in the vibe of the album. I think a lot.
Yeah, because it really has a big effect on you psychologically, and when you're in a setting, you know tap it that like that's why we called the first album Spirit of Place. You tap into that spirit of place, and it speaks through you, and it has a lot to do with your environment because you are your environment, filtered through yourself and then expressed.
Yeah, and even the title of this one, a new world if you can take it. Can you kind of walk me through if you want? I know sometimes artists like to leave stuff up to interpretation, so if you don't want to get like super literal, that's totally cool. But in terms of coming up with like the title of the record, I know sometimes that can be difficult, but thematically, like what was kind of the mindset behind that?
Um, I'm not really sure where the title came from in particular. Uh, but the theme of it is about these, various ends that you read, these apocalypses that, and there you have the apocalypse like the end of the world, the Book of Revelations apocalypse, or that sort of thing. But apocalypses happen on every level every day. Some like people die, you end your relationship with somebody, or you just you see somebody for the last time and you don't even know that you're never going to talk to them again, even if they're still alive. It's like it's the end of something, and you have to figure out what to do with yourself when you get to these ends. And so that's the kind of, if you can take it, you have to internalize that and find a way through it or around it or over it.
Yeah, it's wild, man. There's a lot of stuff even on even sometimes when I'm like doom scrolling on Instagram and just being like 37 now, and there's like a lot of like 80s and 90s kind of throwback stuff on there, but then there's some that get a little darker and a little bit more serious, where it's like, the last time like you rode your bike, you didn't realize it was going to be the last time you rode your bike, or the last time
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, so kind of like with the things you're saying, like, yeah, there's little apocalypses that happen every day. Um, Everything has a beginning and end, and you just don't know when the last time you talked to somebody or the last time that you did something was going to be like the actual last time that you did it. So yeah, that stuff always kind of trips me out 100%.
Yeah.
And for you guys exploring it like lyrically, like how 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 much fun do you have with that, man? Like, we talked about like David Lynch earlier. um how much fun do you guys have like exploring these themes and intertwining that with like not just like the musicality and the riffs and the musicianship, but also kind of like the lyrical part of that?
Yeah, I mean, it's fun. It's a fun process, but when you're thinking about those kind of themes, it's not necessarily about having fun sometimes. Sometimes it's hard to think through and actually internalize what you're trying to say and what you're trying to put out into the world if it's not always it's not about having a fun time sometimes. Um, but with like the end of the world thing, we went. There's this place down in West Virginia called New Vrindavan. I don't know if you've heard of it. The Hare Krishnas, they're like Hindus that are real hippie. They came out of the '60s. They were The Beatles were influenced by them. That's when you have George Harrison in My Sweet Lord, and he goes Hare Krishna. And it's that's where it comes from, is from this sect of people, and they have a golden palace in West Virginia that you'd never expect it, because you go out of Wheeling, and Wheeling is this kind of, you know, I mean, it's a nice city, but it's falling apart. It's crumbling. Barely anyone lives there anymore compared to what they used to have with all the factories gone. And then you go up the hill, and it's literally a palace made of gold up there. And there's these just hippie Hindus just chilling out and meditating all day. And a group of them that we met were a big influence, because they're starting their own farming project that's down in this holler that they call New Yamuna Valley. And they were really into the end of the world. They think that it's coming soon, and that everyone needs to get out into the, out of the cities and into nature, and to build these farming projects, or literal demons are going to rise out of the earth and just destroy the whole world. So, going and talking to people like that is a huge influence. When you meet somebody like that, it has an effect on you. Like, they're extremely cool. They have some wacky ideas, but it's something we wanted to talk about.
Yeah, that's wild, man. I'm a little familiar with Wheeling, only because of being a hockey fan, and they have a team called the Wheeling Nailers. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I had no idea that group of people even existed there. I mean, to get access to a group like that too, like, I mean, how does that work? Do you have to like try to schedule something in advance? I mean, or do you guys just go down there and see, like, okay, let's see if we can talk to these folks?
That's pretty much what we did. We just said, let's go down. We took a camera. We wanted to try to film like a documentary, and we do have footage of everything. So I'd love to get it put together. Um, but kind of what we got out of it so far is like some lyrics. We recorded some sounds that you can hear some of it in the album, but it's nothing like front and center. It's just this kind of thing that's happening in the background. And we went down there to get that sort of thing, and one of the guys with this farming project gave us a tour of the palace, which is just a public thing you can go do from, between whenever times. And he's like, "Oh, you guys should come see our farm." And so we set that up and went and talked to these guys, and they were just nuts. There's like this 80-year-old dude chopping down trees, and like full trees, and carrying them himself to build a bunker underground. And yeah, he's nuts, man.
Yeah, he called it like a nuclear bunker. There's this big like tent. I don't know if there's a storage container or something that he half buried in the earth, and he had I guess a bicycle in it that he would ride to pump out the air, so to like filter the air. He made this like filtration system. That yeah, you would manually have to get on a bike and like ride it to like stay alive if the apocalypse happened.
Yeah, he's ready.
Yeah, he's ready. Sure. No, that guy he was a really interesting guy though. Like, he was very interesting to talk to. We got a bunch of footage of him, and if we ever do put the documentary together, he's like a big, like big piece to the thing.
That's wild, man. It's wild. Yeah, it's great. Like you said, you never kind of expect something like that in like West Virginia. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm trying to picture right now like the juxtaposition of like a golden palace and like a town that's like you said is shrinking and kind of going away. Because obviously, like you said, with the Rust Belt, you think about cities like Youngstown and what it looked like, you know, back in 1940 or 1945 versus what it looks like today, or like Flint, Michigan, some of these places that sadly were whether it was the auto industry or steel that have changed so much. And I don't know too much about it, just some of the stuff that I've read, but like a city like Pittsburgh's been able to kind of like reinvent itself while still keeping kind of the core steel city industry and mentality as well, but has become like still is a very vibrant Midwest city. So Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
and
I
even
think Pittsburgh does well. It's still nice to go to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
It's around Canton's the same kind of way as, it's like all the major factories are, I mean, there's still a couple, they're not all gone, but a lot of them are. And the whole downtown, it's there, but most of the music venues are gone. Even, I mean, 10 years ago when we were playing in them, it was small, but it was nice, a little music scene, and it's not really there anymore.
yeah, it's a bummer, man. Like on one end, everything changes, kind of like what we're, talking about. It's kind of a common thread of this conversation. Like things change, things end, but it's and even COVID kind of like put the clamps on, sadly, a lot of smaller venues, that just couldn't afford to reopen and lost a lot of money because there was no shows. They couldn't put on shows. It's wild, but for you guys, and thanks again so much, y'all, for taking the time to do this. It's really great talking with you. I could probably talk to you for like 3 hours about more counterculture stuff. But I don't want to chew your ear off. But have you guys always had an interest in like different ways of life like that, or learning about people who kind of just see things outside of like I guess you would say like the typical or the norm? Have you kind of always been drawn to that?
I pretty much always, yeah. Like we grew up and our family is pretty religious Christian household, and I have a big respect for all that kind of stuff, but I have always loved, even as a kid, learning about what other people think, and especially when it comes to spirituality, it's interesting to talk to people that are Hindus um, or I've had some friends that are Muslims that were some really interesting. They had a completely different outlook on life. Or if you just go to a different place, like we lived in California for a while too, and the people up in the hills of California are just nuts. Like they're completely different, like aliens. Um, but yeah, like we've always wanted to travel and meet people, and as soon as we got out of college, that's what we have been doing.
That's cool. I think those real life experiences and just meeting I don't know, like the older that I get, I feel like deep down everybody kind of wants the same thing, but it just looks different. I think most people just want to love and be loved and be left alone and be able to live how they want to live. But how we all get there and our upbringings, the influence of that, like I grew up Catholic, you know what I mean? So that's a very specific form of Jesus and spirituality and stuff. Some good, some bad. And there's things about that experience that I'm grateful for. And then there's things about it as an adult that I look back on. I'm like, man, that was weird as a kid. You know what I mean? Like pretty heavy stuff. Um, but yeah, like, that's part of like growing, and it's good. I think it's good to have a curious mind. And it sounds like both of you guys do, which is good because when you stop asking questions, that's when there's more problems that come with that than just being curious and asking questions and learning about people. And that's why I love doing this podcast too. I get a chance to talk to people from all different walks of life, different genres of music, and it's cool learning how people's brains work. But yeah, spirituality too. That's one thing that I've learned as I've gotten older too. There's a big difference between like organized religion and spirituality. You know what I mean? Even though they're like intertwined, it's like they're also two very different things. At least for me, on like a kind of a personal level. Um, but yeah, those themes and those subjects are interesting. And for you guys, just before I officially wrap it up, because I know we're coming up on 7:30, and again, I don't want to chew y'all's ear off, man. And I'm excited to listen to the full length. By the time this is out, it'll be out, so I'm sure everybody will be digging it. I'm gonna manifest in the space-time continuum here, since we're recording it before it releases, that the streams will already be killing it. But I also read that the new album is self-produced but also mastered by, is it Chris Crummett and Jens Bogren? Am I saying their names right?
Yep, that's
Probably.
right. As far as I understand.
Bogren is
Yeah,
what we
Bogren.
say, but he's like, what's he from Sweden? So I don't know how they pronounce things.
Yeah.
It could be weird. But he's really cool. He did the ocean, between the
Okay.
buried and me, like a bunch of stuff, really good stuff. And Chris Crummett did the first song on it. And he works with like Dance Gavin Dance and all those guys, the Swan Core guys. And I think you can hear it in that the difference in the sound, but it works. It doesn't sound like it's from a different album or something. It's cool.
And even though I haven't seen it, can you talk a little bit about the artwork as far as like the actual album itself and kind of how you came up with that?
Yeah,
Could grab it.
yeah. Can you grab it?
Let's grab
We have a thing back here. But yeah, we made it ourselves too. Yeah, it's like blown up. So I don't know if you can even see it that well, but like this is a mock-up. This is not a real CD kit. It's like flimsy paper, but that's the cover. Um, so we made this infinity mirror, and that's you know what those are. They're like a mirror box. It's got mirrors facing inward both ways, so it reflects the inside forever. And you like line it with lights around. And we took it to a bunch of different places. So like there's it, and then we heavily edited it. So it didn't look that clean, but we got the idea across, and then kind of composed it in Photoshop. But yeah, we just wanted to have this like different settings for the mirror box, and it's kind of like you have the end of the picture feels like it should be where it's at in the horizon, but when you have a mirror box, it pushes the end back that further than would be possible in real life because it's just creating an infinite tunnel. So that's kind of what I was thinking. That axis of it goes further than should be, just like when you reach the end of something, we're talking about going past it. We're talking about what's after death, what's after your smaller apocalypse that you faced.
That's
And it's
cool,
in a
man.
poppy field.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, from what I can see with my old eyes, no, that looks really cool, man. I really dig that. I dig that concept because I think these are things that a lot of people talk about or think about, I should say, but some people are afraid to talk about it because I think the concept of the beyond is it. I think it freaks some people out because it's the great unknown. You know what I mean? So I'm always fascinated by people's thoughts on those kind of subjects, and that's a really cool concept. Are you guys going to do vinyl or anything like that as part of it, or?
I would love to. It depends on what interest is like. Like if we're gonna make our money back off of it, we'll do it. But that's really we don't have a whole lot of money to throw into that right now. But I'd like to have them.
Yeah.
I think we should look into it.
Yeah, and I know times are weird with like all the tariffs and stuff like that and getting stuff made and how much it's going to
Yeah.
cost and how many you have to order, do like a pre-order, things like that. But well, no, that's cool. Well, fellas, Eric, Brandon, I've really enjoyed talking with y'all, man. I'll get you out of here on this. This is something that I normally ask in a roundabout way. But with the theme of the show being perseverance, and moving forward, and obviously the challenges that you guys have been through. I know there's been lineup changes over the years, took a hiatus, like you said, did your other band, would you take just as serious as well? But uh it's been cool talking with you guys to know about the curiosity that you have for other ways of life. Because I do think there's people that kind of you know, can get set in their ways. And I'm sure you've come across people like that in your time. But for you guys, amidst this musical exploration and just life exploration and art, um, what are some things that have helped you kind of get through dark times or persevere or overcome? Or in March 4th, as it were, that you think might be beneficial to people out there if they're struggling or trying to chase their dreams, whether it's music, whatever it may be.
You got something?
Yeah, I just think for me personally, it was just making something. Whenever I got depressed about something or angry about something, I just kind of channel that into to making a song or learning about you know learning about a subject that I could then translate into a song. Something like that. And I feel like some of the best ideas came from times like that, where I was kind of just uh, you know I needed to focus on something really bad, so I just sat down and started writing music, and feels like a lot of the times those, just those ideas come out good when you're in a rough spot.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
channeling it into something productive.
yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, that, and for me it's just doing something like that as well. But if you don't, have something to work on right then, or you're just like, I know some people, they don't want to start it or whatever. They get in a bad mood and they're afraid to start something, or you need to get yourself out of that headspace. If you like, I think meditation has been really helpful for me. And just, if you're having a bad trip, you gotta flip a switch. You gotta start doing something else. You can't dwell on things.
Well, Eric, Brandon, this has been awesome, fellas. I really appreciate you guys giving me an hour of your time, especially the week that the record is coming out. It's I'm sure you're busy dudes, and anytime people give me some of their time, I really appreciate it. A wise and kind man told me that time is the one thing we don't get more of. So anytime people spend a little bit of theirs with me, especially to geek out about music and their art, which I know is a really personal thing. Especially you guys been doing this like your whole lives. I really appreciate it, and I can't wait to listen to the whole record. And like I said, I'm going to be manifesting that the numbers and are going to be doing great, and that people are going to be digging it, and you'll get positive feedback. So I will put up the links in the podcast description for the episode. But for people who aren't aware of y'all, man, let them know where they can find you.
You can find us pretty much anywhere as Firmament. Sometimes it's Firmament Band on Twitter. We're Firmament Band on Instagram. I think it's Firmament_band. So you might have to look a little bit, but because our official website is not completely done yet. But we'll have a merch store up around the time that the album goes up. So by the time somebody watches this, you should be able to find it.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again, fellas. I really appreciate it. Alrighty, dighty, there you have it. That was my conversation with Eric and Brandon Carbenia of Firmament out of my home state of Ohio. Make sure you go follow these guys on Instagram at Firmament Band, and the links to all of their stuff will be in the podcast description for this episode. So just scroll down to the bottom of that podcast description, hit those links, and go follow and support the brothers in Firmament. You will not be disappointed if you love progressive metal, if you love progressive rock, metalcore, post-hardcore, alternative, you name it. They put it all in a blender and have their own awesome sound. Once again, their new album, A New World, If You Can Take It, is available everywhere you get your music. It just came out May 2nd. And I was really excited to catch up with these guys. It was actually the week of the release, I believe, when we talked. It was the end of April this year. Is flying by, man. But I want to say directly to Eric and Brandon, you guys, thank you so much for taking the time to stop by the podcast and chat with me. I really enjoyed the conversation. You guys are incredibly creative, talented, introspective individuals. And I just want to let you know that from a music nerd like myself, who really gets into artwork, really gets into lyrics and themes, and I know sometimes, musicians like to leave the meaning of the songs up to the interpretation of the listener, which I think is really awesome as well, because everybody, has a different experience when they listen to a song. I digress, but it was really cool to learn more about, y'all's vibe, man, and your story, and how you come up with these tunes and how you recorded. I really loved, as we talked about, the music video for the song Raymond Moody, which is off of the first LP, everybody, Spirit of Place. Make sure you go check out that as well. Awesome music video and awesome album. And yeah, it was just cool. And again, the fact that you guys are from the Midwest, Obviously we don't have the exact same life experiences. No two people on this planet do, but I'm always happy to put on for people from my neck of the woods and from Ohio, especially. And we've got a lot of rich music history in Ohio, especially in heavy music. And, and especially the last, 10, 15 years in heavy music. And it's cool to see you guys doing your thing, man. I really enjoy it. And I'm happy to get you on here to share your story. So once again, everybody, Firmament Band on Instagram. The links to all of their music will be in the podcast description for this episode. So go follow and support these guys. I really enjoyed it, man. A lot of great songs on the new record. I would say for me, for sure, I really loved, if I had to pick some faves, I really love Liquid Lush. I love After Me, The Flood. I love Benedictional is awesome. Cherub. It's a great listen, man. Front to back, it's a great listen. And if you hit those links, they do have merch available in the links that I've provided in the podcast description. So you can get everything from t-shirts to a physical copy of the CD, which I highly recommend because as you guys heard in that conversation, the artwork for it is really sick. It's really cool, man. It would make a very awesome like canvas or painting on a wall. It's that kind of cover art. And I think it goes great with like the theme of what they do, man. So thank you to Eric. Thank you to Brandon. And thank you to all of you for realsies, y'all. It's been I say it a lot on this show. I know I can repeat myself, but you know what? I'm a good person, damn it. Um, but where was I going with that? But yeah, I if you guys enjoyed the show, that's where I was going with it. It's been cool to see it grow every year and to see people subscribe and download old episodes. It's really cool to see those bumps and those spikes when I see them when I see people who have jumped on the pirate ship as it were, and it really means a lot, y'all. These past few years, like a lot of people, I think have been a bit of a roller coaster, and I don't air out my personal life on this show because it ain't about me. And that's also not how I roll. I just think it's bad form and real, bush league to air out private matters of the heart and of your personal life in a public forum. I know a lot of people, make a good living doing that, whether it's, digging the dirt on other people or, dishing their own. I'm not like that. But I'll just say that, and I've said this before, but on a surface level, it's, there's been a lot of ups and downs for your boy these past few years. A lot of ups, though, a lot of ups. There's been some downs and, death, heartbreak, chiefly, which are part of life. We all go through it at some point. Um, but navigating all of that, until you're faced with tremendous amounts of grief, you don't know how you're going to cope. You don't know how you're going to roll through it. And I'm very fortunate for and grateful and thankful for, and I love them all very, very much. And they know who they are, and it would take too long to name. And I'm always conscious of how often I rant and how much, but I've got a great inner circle that's been there for me through it all, and a great support system. And I know not everybody has that, and we're in the throes of Pride Month right now and Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. So again, I say keep the faith and be kind to one another and be kind to yourselves. At the end of every show is a tribute to my grandfather and what I learned from him. And even though I don't get political or religious on here, and I'm not going to tell anybody how to think, how you guys live is none of my business. Just be good to each other. That's why I share that message. But as somebody who's struggled with mental health issues in my life, and who's had the challenges that I've had the past few years, having a good support circle is very important. If you don't, there are resources out there. I will also share that link in this episode as well, for access to therapists in your area and whatnot. But even if you can't afford that or you don't have the insurance for that, one of the biggest things that you can do for yourselves, you guys, and again, I'm no doctor. This is an entertainment podcast, okay? So, this isn't prescriptive. This is just things that have helped me. But like I said at the jump, getting out in nature, getting away from screens and blue light and constant stimulation. I've even had to check myself on that. As much as I love music between my job and doing this podcast, I mean, I'm looking at screens most of my days, man. And that's objectively not healthy for my eyes or my brain. We weren't meant to be stimulated, and I've found myself lately getting like overstimulated. You know what I mean? So that's why I've made it more of an effort lately to get in my car, take a drive, get out in nature. Tennessee's a beautiful state that I live in, and I'm very fortunate to be within reach of all those places. But we've all got, I feel like, even if you don't have the greatest support system, I feel like at least everybody, or I hope, has like one or two people that you can confide in and talk to, who helps put a battery in your back and make you feel better about yourself when you don't. And so please, man, just know how much you're loved and how worthy you are. So many people feel unseen and unworthy and unloved, and I'm here to tell you, you're not. On your darkest days, there are people who they'd take a bullet for you. So please hang in there. Don't quit on yourself. Don't quit on your dreams. Don't beat yourself up. Talk kindly to yourself. Write down your goals. Hold yourself accountable to them, and be a good soul to people. And I know sometimes it's tough, right? Sometimes there are people, they just get under your skin and you're like, why are you bothering me? I get it, but just remember, you don't know what that person's going through either. Lead with kindness, do no harm, take no crap, but be good to yourselves. Okay. So on that note, thanks to Firmament. Thanks to all of you. If you enjoyed what you heard, all of my stuff is in the podcast description as well. My link tree is in there. Holler at me. Tell a friend if you like the show, subscribe, leave a rating and a review. All those things go a long way in helping get these podcasts out to more people. And that's what I want. I want to put more people onto Firmament. Ooh, I'm breaking stuff now. So keep the faith and be kind to one another and be kind to yourselves. Courtesy of Eric and Brandon of Firmament, off of their new album, A New World. If you can take it, here is the lead track, Liquid Lush. Reach.
that you're rattling in your head, and by the dulcet dram that's creeping to your hand makes any time of day a little